Hey there, welcome to the Movie Review Mom YouTube channel. If you're brand new to my channel, yay, you're finally here. We're so glad. We've been waiting for you. And if you're a returning subscriber, yay, thank you so much for coming back. I truly appreciate your support. And so if you are new, then you need to know my goal is to save you time and money by giving you the scoop on quality of filmmaking and quality of content so that you can decide whether or not you want to spend time or money watching a particular film. So today, the movie I'm reviewing is called The Dead Don't Hurt. This Western romance drama is now playing in theaters as well as on Fandango at home. The movie is rated R, and I'll give you tips for parents here in just a minute. It's 2 hours and 9 minutes long, and my overall movie review mom grade is a B+. I'll explain why. First, I'll give you an overview in a nutshell. Then I'll point out things that I liked, things I didn't like, tips for parents, themes worth talking about, funny lines, interesting lines, and we'll finish up with recommendations for other films that are sort of similar that you might also really like. All right, so in a nutshell, the story is about star-crossed lovers on the Western frontier in the 1860s. An independent, strong woman has a relationship with a Danish immigrant until he decides to join the Civil War effort, leaving her alone to defend herself from the ruthless men who run the town. Kudos to Viggo Mortensen for directing this character study / romance. He wasn't planning on acting in the movie, but the actor who he did cast in the leading role had to step out due to a scheduling work conflict. So Vicky Krieps, who is the leading lady, encouraged Viggo to step into that role. And I'm so excited, so glad that he did. I'm excited to watch his directing career as well. His directorial debut was the movie Falling, which I haven't seen. How did I miss that? I'm going to watch that. Anyway, by the way, he also wrote the whole shebang of this movie. I don't know about Falling. I'll have to check that one out. Anyway, quick tips for parents. The movie is rated R. We see bloody murders by gunshot. We see a man hung for a crime that he didn't commit. An unmarried couple goes at it, although we see them clothed. A woman is raped, although we don't see that, thank goodness. We just see his initial attack on her. I think overall kids are going to be bored because it's adults talking mostly. We see bullies represented in the form of adults. Some characters speak French, and so English subtitles are used occasionally. We also hear Spanish and Danish spoken, sometimes with and sometimes without subtitles. Some of the themes that are illustrated very well are the harsh life on the Western frontier during the Civil War, especially for women, love, revenge, forgiveness, trying to create a quiet life while the world keeps interrupting with wars and bullies. Now, onto the list of things that I really liked about this movie. First of all, I adore Viggo Mortensen and think he's amazing. I think everybody fell in love with him when he played Aragorn in the Lord of the Rings, right? I mean, he was so handsome and honorable and awesome, and he continues to be that way. And in real life, what I know of him is he seems to really be a fantastic guy. So love you, Viggo, if you're watching this movie. You've heard that probably from a lot of women. Anyway, I thought that he should have won that Academy Award for Best Actor in the movie The Green Book. He was so great in that movie. Not to say the actor who won wasn't great, but they actually starred together in the movie The Green Book. And I was like, oh, give it to Viggo. Come on. The other guy already got one the year before. Anyway, pay close attention, by the way, to the sword that we see a knight carry in the opening scene of this movie. It's Aragorn's sword from The Lord of the Rings, the trilogy. And this was a gift that Viggo Mortensen actually received from the director of The Lord of the Rings by Peter Jackson. I just thought that was so sweet. Viggo Mortensen actually grew up in Denmark, which I never even knew. I love him, even though I don't know that much about him. But one of my sons is currently dating a girl from Denmark. Her whole family moved from Denmark, and we have had Christmas Eve dinner with them and many, many meals, ate lots of Danish food. And absolutely love her family and so much fun. At Christmas time, one of their traditions, which is a Danish tradition, is to hold hands and dance around the Christmas tree singing. And I just thought that was so cute. And I'm like, oh, I got to do that with you. And so we did that one year, and it was so much fun. Anyway, back to the movie. Vicky Krieps is such a classic actress and a beauty. I hadn't seen her in anything until the movie The Phantom Thread. That was what really put her on the American silver screen. Have you seen that one? I thought it was so well done. Viggo Mortensen wanted her in this movie because she was believable as a woman who would live in the 1860s. He explained that not all Hollywood actresses could pull that off. And I thought that's absolutely true. She looked like she belonged in that world. The villains do a really great job illustrating corruption and power. Danny Houston and Solly McLeod, and they play those types of roles often. I didn't even recognize Garrett Dillahunt in this, and I like him a lot. The young Atlas Green is totally cute, and I hope to see him in more movies. He plays the little boy. The name of the title in Spanish means until the end of the world. And when the leading lady asks him, Viggo Mortensen's character, why he went to San Francisco, he answered, to see the end of the world. And there's this circular nature of the movie that I thought was really interesting. And I liked the title in Spanish better than the one that we have in English, which is Dead Men Don't Hurt, which is true, but still, I liked the other title better. Anyway, we don't know how much time passes by. The only reference we have is when Viggo Mortensen's character tells someone that his wife died 12 years ago. And you're like, oh, okay. Because before that, I was like, wait, what happened to the little boy? And I was like, what's going on? And I kept thinking I missed something. You know, do I need to go back and watch that again? Because it was very confusing to me. And I'll talk more about that here in just a minute. But back to the list of good things. Lovely cinematography by Marcel Zeiskind. Viggo Mortensen's character explains that going to fight the Civil War is the right thing to do, although he leaves his wife, technically they're not married, but he leaves his companion, a woman, defenseless in this hostile town. So was that the right thing to do? We see him toss his Civil War medal over a cliff, letting us know he realized that that was a bad decision, and he actually apologizes to her later on. Hopefully that's not a big spoiler, but I think it's helpful because it lends to this nature of this cyclical storytelling. So that is the beginning of the list of things that I didn't like about the story. The movie has flashbacks and it also jumps forward. So it gets really confusing when trying to figure out the timeline. And then later, after I watched the movie and I understood where certain scenes would have been inserted in a chronological storytelling technique, I was like, oh, okay, that's cool. And I thought that was really clever. But then I was like, wait a minute, he said this thing, but it hadn't happened yet. So wait, how did that work? And so then I got confused again. I still love Viggo Mortensen. Anyway, some people will complain that nothing really happens in the movie. And that's not actually true. Stuff happens, but it is absolutely a character study of a movie, as I mentioned earlier. The runtime of the movie is really too long to say, I think, what really needed to be said. And that is something that we see with first-time directors who just have a really hard time killing their darlings. And that's a literary phrase that all writers know, that it's really hard to edit. And when you sweat blood for every scene, you don't want to edit it out. And anyway, so I saw that probably might have been the case with him. Then again, he worked with Peter Jackson, who had these incredibly long movies in The Lord of the Rings. And so his is very short in comparison. And by the way, Lord of the Rings, best trilogy ever, in my opinion. And I've watched it a million times. I just rewatched it again. I binged watched it when I was sick in bed last month. It's so great. Anyway, whenever I watch movies, I write notes and I specifically write down funny lines and interesting lines simply so I can share them with you so you can get a little taste of the quality of writing. And so you can see all of them on my written review at moviereviewmom.com. So one of the funny lines that just made me laugh out loud is when Vivian, who's played by Vicky Krieps, first comes to Viggo Mortensen's house, which is basically a shack in the middle of nowhere. And she says, it looks like a bandit's hideout. It is not a pretty sight to behold. And you could tell she's thinking, what have I just done? Why am I here with this guy, you know? And then she asks him, what do you do here? And he says, as little as possible. So that made me laugh out loud. And then I wrote down a couple of interesting lines. One is by Holger Olsen, who's played by Viggo Mortensen, and he says, you can't dream your life away. And Vivian answers, why not? And I thought, that's interesting. And then he goes on and talks about some other stuff, but I just thought that was an interesting line. Tell me what you think about that. Anyway, and then another interesting line is when Viggo Mortensen goes off to war, his character, of course, goes off to the Civil War. And then finally one day he shows up again. The war is over. And so she looks at him and she says, how was your war? And she was battling her own war back at this, ranch shack of a house while he was gone. Anyway, they have really interesting conversation about that. All right, so while I was watching this movie, I instantly thought of 3 other films that I want to tell you about. So the first one is an old classic Western called Tombstone. Well, not super, super old from the 60s, but, one of the more modern Western movies that's just done really well. Fantastic acting. Definitely check it out if you haven't seen it. Another one that I really loved is called True Grit. Now, the original True Grit is an old movie, but they did a remake of sorts just a couple of years ago. And then another one is Unforgiven, also a classic Western, also very well done, of course, because I'm recommending it. All right, so hopefully my reviews are helpful. If they are, give them a thumbs up or comment down below or subscribe. All of those actions are free to you and they spread magical YouTube fairy dust on my channel so that it can grow. Thank you so much. Have a fantastic day and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye for now.